All right, welcome to getting ready to hire your first employee. I'm Micah Johnnet with the Center for Inclusive Entrepreneurship, and we're here to really talk you through all you got to do to get ready for hiring. But before you do, you really need to make sure you need to hire an employee. Employees can be very expensive, especially if they need to be paid even when you don't have customers and sales. You can look at your revenue and cash flow to make sure you can cover your employees' wages. You might save money by hiring a part-time employee, a temporary employee, or providing flexible on-call hours. In all cases, consider both the expense of the new employee as well as the potential increase in revenue with an extra set of hands. Me or any of your other CIE advisors can help you with this. Once you do hire an employee, your business will be subject to lots of rules and regulations. Any business with at least one employee is subject to the rules and regulations of the Washington Department of Labor and Industries, also known as L&I, as well as those of the Washington State Employment Security Department, ESD, the Washington State Department of Health and Human Services, DSHS, and the United States Department of Social Security, and the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. If your business has an employee, you must comply with Labor and Industries wage and hour rules. You must establish a Labor and Industries employer account to track employee wages and hours. You must comply with L&I workplace safety rules, and you must pay workers' compensation insurance for your employees. So how does it work? If you plan to hire an employee, you must obtain a Washington business license from the Washington State Department of Revenue, or the DOR. You cannot have an employee unless you have a business license. If you already have a business license as a sole proprietor or without any employees, you need to amend it to indicate that you intend to hire an employee. By submitting your business license application or amending it to include employees, your business will automatically be registered for workers' compensation through the Department of Labor and Industries and unemployment insurance through the Employment Security Department. After registering, each agency will send you account information and directions on how to file quarterly wage and hour reports. Again, once you register with Department of Revenue, the Labor and Industries and ESD will reach out to you. So once you have that account information, you must file quarterly wage and hour reports with both Labor and Industries and Employment Security Department, L&I and ESD, even if you have no active employees or hours to report. Failure to submit your quarterly report will result in penalties and interest. Don't worry, there are affordable bookkeepers and payroll services that help with payroll and handle federal and state reporting. Federal and state laws require you to report all newly hired and rehired employees to the Division of Child Support within 20 days of hire or rehire, regardless of their age or the number of hours worked. Note, one special situation, the Division of Child Support recognizes Indian tribal sovereignty. Indian tribes, tribally owned businesses, and Native-owned businesses located on reservations are exempt from new hire reporting requirements. However, voluntary reporting of new or rehired employees is appreciated. Micah, that's a lot of rules. Could I just avoid all this by calling my workers something other than an employee? Not really. For the purposes of labor and industry rules and regulations, an employee is anyone doing work for the business. who is subject to the employer's control. Control exists when the employer determines the employee's work schedule, hours, and job responsibilities. What about my kids? Could they fly under the L&I radar? Not necessarily. If kids do work for the business and are subject to your control, they are still employees, subject to L&I rules and regulations. If you hire anyone under 18 years old, not only will they be subject to L&I's wage and hour, workplace safety, and work comp rules, but you will also need to obtain a minor work permit from the Department of Revenue. You can file an application for a minor work permit with DOR when you apply or amend your business license to report an employee. You will need to get authorization from the minor's parent or legal guardian, either a school time authorization or a summer authorization, both of which would need to be updated annually. You must keep a file for the employee that includes proof of age, proof could include a birth certificate, a social security card, a driver's license, baptismal records, or a notarized statement of a parent or guardian. You also need an insurance policy for farm workers and a completed I-9 also for farm workers. You must comply with any work restrictions that apply to minors regarding the type of work they can perform at various age levels. There are special rules, however, for young farm workers. The family farm exemption is that child labor rules for age, wages, prohibited duties, and hours do not apply to immediate family members of farm owners working on the family farm. A person under 12 can only be employed by a family-owned farm. A person under 13 may only work during the weeks when school is not in session, hand harvesting berries, bulbs, cucumbers, and spinach. That exemption is strictly defined. Any other crops are not allowed to be harvested under this exemption, and the use of mechanical harvesters by 13-year-olds is prohibited. Okay, so kids aren't a loophole. What about interns? Are they considered employees? An internship is defined as work-related learning for individuals who want hands-on experience. Generally, interns must be paid as employees. However, interns may be unpaid if the internship is part of a formalized educational program. If an employer pays an intern a regular wage, similar to other employees, the intern is an employee, and all labor and industry rules regarding wage and hours, workplace safety, and workers' compensation apply. You might be able to avoid this if the intern's compensation is a stipend or expense reimbursement, something other than a regular hourly wage. Okay, so now that interns are employees, kids are employees, how about an apprentice? Apprenticeship is a combination of on-the-job training and related supplemental instruction under the supervision of a journey-level professional. Apprentices are employees covered by L&I's wage and hour, worker compensation, and workplace safety rules yet again. Apprentices typically will earn a percentage of a journey-level wage, provided that the wage is not less than the state minimum wage. This only applies to registered apprentices. Registered apprenticeships must be approved by the Washington State Apprenticeships Training Council. Okay, so kids are employees, interns are employees, and apprentices are employees. What about volunteers? Surely they are not considered employees. You're right. A volunteer freely gives their time and talents without expectations of pay. However, under Washington law, volunteering is not allowed for a for-profit business. A volunteer can only work for an educational, charitable, religious, state, or local government, or a nonprofit organization. Okay, so all these people are employees, and there's all those rules around them. What if I hire someone as a contractor instead of an employee? Does that get around the labor and industry rules? Instead of hiring an employee, maybe you could get by with an independent contractor. In other words, a person who is self-employed as a separate business. If the person is properly classified as an independent contractor, they would not be considered an employee subject to the employer's obligations under L&I's wage and hour, worker compensation, or safe workplace rules. If you decide to hire an independent contractor, there are rules that you need to know about around independent contractors. Whether a person is an employee or an independent contractor is a case-by-case, fact-based determination. You might call the person an independent contractor. You might even have a contract with the person where you both agree in writing that the person is an independent contractor. But if the person acts like an employee and works like an employee, the person must be treated as an employee for purposes of workers' compensation, wage and hour laws, and unemployment insurance. Some of the factors that are used for determining whether someone is an independent contractor or an employee includes whether the person is free from the employer's direction and control, engages in their own independent business or occupation, is registered or licensed with the appropriate state and federal agencies, has multiple clients, advertises, and has a significant investment in their business, and keeps business records and files taxes as a separate entity. If the worker does all the work at the company's office, uses the company's equipment, works hours determined by the company, completes the work according to the company's plans and procedures, then they're looking less like an independent contractor and more like an employee, especially if the person is wearing the company uniform and name tag. See what I mean? One thing to keep in mind, the federal government has its own way to determine whether someone is an independent contractor for purposes of calculating Social Security and workers' federal compensation and unemployment insurance. You need to know both. Today, we're only talking about Washington Labor and Industries. So that's really all you need to know about hiring your first employee. We've also got Andrew Bryan here on the call. Andrew works for the Small Business Division of Labor and Industries. Would you like to come up here on screen and share a little bit about how you can help people or the opportunities offered by you?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Micah. As you demonstrated so very well, there is a whole new world of responsibilities once you become an employer. At L&I alone, you're going to see requirements with workers' compensation, workplace safety and health, workplace rights, and that's just one state agency, which is why I'm here to tell you about ways to supplement and complement the help that the Center for Inclusive Entrepreneurship can provide you with our program, which is the Small Business Office of Labor and Industries. And we're really dedicated to assisting small business owners navigate state government regulations and requirements. So whenever you need our help, you can call us or email us anytime with questions by going to that address that's floating magically above my head. We also offer monthly webinars in English and Spanish, as well as custom presentations. So please make sure to utilize our services whenever you need them. And just kind of if I may, just a couple things, you've covered all the things that we'd love to hear. The things I always like to reinforce are the ones that I see people get in trouble with the most. And one of those is, defining that, who's an employee and who's an independent contractor. I hear way too often people tell me like, oh, what about my 1099 employees? Well, that's a bit of an oxymoron. You can't have a 1099 person that's an employee. So do make sure, if you do use independent contractors, make sure they're passing that test. That'll save you a lot of trouble. Another thing is make sure that you have a written accident prevention program. That's it's the #1 citation across all industries in Washington. It's kind of like your safety program. So once you have employees, you have to have one of those in place. So please do that. And the other thing is, making sure you file every quarter. If you have an active workers' comp account, you have to file whether you didn't hire yet or whether they didn't work any hours. So even if it's a 0-hour report, you still need to file that. And that's just another thing that gets some people in a little bit of trouble just when they're starting off as an employer. Yeah, other than that, you covered lots of great stuff, Micah.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. So what if somebody comes to you and they've already been in business and they're watching this here and they're like, oh, I don't have an accident prevention plan. Can they give you a call without having to worry about getting a fine?
Exactly. We are not a compliance part of L&I. We exist solely to help small business owners and employers meet the requirements and regulations. So if you call us, you don't have to worry about that. Moreover, we even have a team of consultants, like our Division of Occupational Safety and Health. They provide free consultations that does a similar thing, where it's free and confidential. You don't have to worry about getting fines or citations when you do it. Really what we want is, we want to work with you. We want to partner with you. We want to make sure that you have a safe and healthy workplace and that, everyone goes home at the end of the night. So, there's a lot of parts of L&I that are all about just getting that to happen. So you don't have to worry when you call us about any kind of fines or citations or anything like that. We're here to help you avoid them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I recently helped somebody get their first employees, and they were looking at the accident prevention plan, and their comment was that a lot of it seemed like common sense. It was a lot of the stuff that they were already doing to keep their employees safe. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Exactly. So it's, a lot of it is common sense. It just, the state requires that it be in writing. And then there's some things that maybe, don't feel like common sense. It's really going to depend largely upon your industry and your particular workplace. And that's why whenever people are calling and they are having difficulty setting up these accident prevention programs, we do have a page of templates on our website, but a template is only as, it's a general type of thing. So, if you can make it work, that's good. If not, like I said, we have those consultants that can go and actually help you and help create an accident prevention program that is specifically for your business and meets all those particular needs. Because there might be some very specific kind of safety and health regulations that you might not even be aware of. Things like, personal protective equipment or safeguarding, things like that. So it's a really good resource to utilize them.
Yeah, I used the person I helped was actually a landscaper. And as we were looking through those templates, we found that there's specific things that need to be included if you're working outside above a certain temperature.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's relatively new regulations that in the past couple of years. Yeah, and each year they seem to get updated a little bit more. As in the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing more and more higher temps, especially west of the Cascades, unfortunately. So yeah, they have been addressing that, and you do see kind of new regulations pop up. So yeah, as we're heading into spring and soon summer will be around the corner. Yeah, that's another great thing to be aware of.
Yeah, so do people with an active accident prevention program, does it need to be updated as those things come out, or does Labor and Industries let them know if they are in an industry that there is an update being pushed towards?
So typically it is up to the employer to keep track of these. So that's why, like I said, it's really good to bring in a consultant because they can kind of go over everything across, the whole life of your business throughout the year. So, the idea is to address as many things as you possibly can, like kind of working conditions, whether that be external or internal. So yeah, the goal is to have that. But of course, an accident prevention program, one of the key words about it is that it's active. It's, so it's like sometimes you will need to update it as new things come out. We're nearing the end of a legislative session here in the next month. So I'm sure new things will pop out from there that we'll probably have new rules and things that come into effect the next year, the year after. One really great way to stay on top of all those is to subscribe to our newsletter. We do have a small business newsletter. It's released quarterly. And if you go to this address above my head, you'll see it in the upper right-hand corner on the website where you can subscribe to that. And what I do is I send out, like I said, I send out a newsletter every quarter, gives you updates on things that you need to know and things that you might need to update, maybe new regulations, new requirements, things like that. And fair warning, I do fill it full of dad jokes. So, prepare to groan.
Perfect. I mean, you got to put a little humor into it every now and then.
I mean, this stuff is just riveting material on its own. So, but I can't resist. I have to put a joke or two in there too.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's great that you're there to help, but what if there's some business owners out here who they're not that comfortable talking about business in English? Does the small business have other languages that they're able to help folks in?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. We do. We have, we are able to assist fully in Spanish. My colleague, Andrea Munoz, is fully bilingual, and we're actually able to help in any language. So like I said, we have 2 people directly in our office that can do English and Spanish. For any other language, we do offer free interpretive services. So we'll get someone on the line and that they will provide free interpretive services. So there's no worries about calling us. We will find a way to make that communication happen and get all your questions answered.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. It doesn't look like we've got any more questions coming in. So thank you for your time. Thanks for what you do to help keep employees safe. And we will talk a little bit more about tomorrow about what to do next. So you've decided to hire employees and now what's coming up next. And that'll be live on our Facebook as well. So we'll see you then.